Okay. But yeah, you may have used this before, and the concept is really the same in Google Slides. So basically, by using this theme builder, we can turn the Google Slides document into an interactive online space where students can work with the content and with their peers at the same time. There we go. So the cool thing about the digital interactive notebook is that the content, length, and appearance of your notebook are all customizable. So you can make your notebooks whatever you want them to be. In addition, there are ready-made templates available online that you can alter to fit the needs of your classroom and your students. So you can see an example here on the slide. This is an example of what the cover of a notebook might look like. So this would be like the first slide in the presentation. You can see it does look like a notebook. So you have a space for students to put their names, links to various pages or activities, and the title of what is in the notebook. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. So first, just a little note here, there are some caveats to using this platform. And one I want to mention is related to accessibility in multiple senses of the word. So some of you may have been thinking of these questions already, so we wanted to address them early on. So first, there are some really good things about using digital interactive notebooks, especially if you already use Google products, which most people probably already do in some form. If you have a Gmail account or if you use Google Photos, Google Docs, Google Drive, etc. If you're part of an organization that uses Google products, you might already use Google Classroom. So you can integrate the notebooks directly into your existing Google Classroom if you have that. So this means that like the rest of your online classroom, it's accessible from anywhere students can log into their school Google account. If you don't have Google Classroom or if you're not part of an organization, students can still use their personal Gmail accounts to access the notebooks and other shared materials in Google Drive. The not so good part of this is that use of this particular tool is dependent on access to G Suite apps. So this means you have to have a Google account in order to use it. This isn't an issue for most people in the US, but students in certain countries may not have access. So that's something to consider, especially if you teach fully online. And a note about accessibility for disabled students. What we're doing with Google Slides here kind of breaks the built-in accessibility features. Google is usually pretty good about this with making things accessible for people. Like it works pretty well with built-in screen readers, like ones you find in Safari or Siri on Mac. However, but the nature of what we're doing here with the theme builder makes it those things not work so well. So we just want to acknowledge that this is not 100% accessible for all students. So that's just something you should keep in mind. And whenever possible, try to use those universal design learning practices and just sort of, use your best judgment as a teacher, like have alternative activities available if a student for whatever reason can't access this. So some advantages of this tool for students. So first, students can interact and work on the same activity together without having to use the screen sharing feature in Zoom. So this means they can both be contributing to a project or to an activity while also being able to interact with one another synchronously via Zoom. So they can have their video on, they don't have to just like trade back and forth in the chat, can actually talk to one another. Another advantage is easy organization. So you as the teacher, when you're making things, can create one file or folder for each unit, each module, or even for each student. So your students always know where to find their materials. So this also protects against data loss when inevitable technical problems occur. And this is also a good opportunity to remind people to back up your data in multiple locations. Hard drive failures happen, things happen with your computer. So if you have it in two places, such as on Google Drive and also on your computer or on an external hard drive, that minimizes the chances of losing important things. So in that same vein as organization, feedback is also easy to find and view for students. So you can leave marginal comments in Drive documents and also in Google Slides. So all the students have to do is open the document to view their feedback. And if they have Drive notifications turned on, they can get an email when new comments are posted that will take them directly to those comments in Drive. So there's no need to sort of search for it and click through like there is in Canvas. The comments are actually directly in the notebook. So their feedback is right there alongside their work. And now some advantages for teachers. So this also makes life a lot easier for you as a teacher. So digital interactive notebooks are great opportunities for formative assessment. And like we were just saying, it's very easy to leave feedback. Work done in the notebook can also be used to record attendance or participation. And since Drive tracks changes, it's easy to see who has contributed to an activity and to what extent. So there's a tool called version history. So if you've used Google Drive or Google Slides before, you can see there's a tool that says last edited at this date and this time. So if you click on that, you can actually see who has made what changes to the notebook. So this is really useful for tracking attendance, participation, etc. And as the owner of the document, you as the instructor can also suspend editing privileges for other users. So this means you can quote unquote lock the document to enforce deadlines if needed. However, you can also look at this version history tool to see when changes were made. So if it was made after a deadline, then you can make whatever decisions you need to make there. One thing to note about this though is that it doesn't do it automatically like it does if you've ever used Canvas, you can set a submission to stop accepting submissions after a certain time. But in the digital interactive notebook, you have to go in and make those changes. It doesn't do it automatically. You have to flip that switch manually. So those are the advantages for teachers and for students. So now we're going to have a short poll, not directly in Zoom, but you can either use the chat to answer these questions, or you can speak up and talk about it if you wish. So first question, do you use G Suite apps as a teacher? So no, sometimes, very often, all the time. You can put your answers in the chat, or you can speak up with the reasons that you do those things. And if you do put your answers in the chat, if you could include like why you do or don't use them or what you use them for, that would be awesome. So we have a sometimes, no. Okay, we have other programs that provide similar functions. Okay, so let's see. So Hassan, could you tell us why you use it sometimes? If you're okay with speaking up.
Yes, I use it for my own.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking classes, or sometimes I take classes online, but I'm not using them for my students, for my classes.
Okay.
So it's my own learning and personal development with online classes and courses. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so you use it for your learning, not necessarily for your teaching.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, would anyone else like to share? No? Okay, so we have one more question. So how confident are you in, oops, there we go. How confident are you in your skills using G Suite apps? And again, you can put your answers in the chat, or you can talk about it. Okay, so we have somewhat confident, pretty confident.
One of the best features about this tool, everyone, hello, is that you don't have to be a tech expert by any means. As long as you have experience using Google Slides before or PowerPoint, anyone can develop one of these notebooks.
Yeah, that's a great point, Alejandra. Like, you definitely don't have to be a tech expert to use this. Google makes it usually pretty simple to use. Okay. Hassan, can you tell us a little bit about what you use, like why you're somewhat confident in it, what kind of stuff that you usually do?
I'm familiar with the slides, using slides like PowerPoint slides. I use recently I took a class, an online class on education technology, and we had to collaborate and use the Google form, like working in Word document together, people from different countries. So that was really interesting and also fun. We sometimes sometimes it happens that we would work in at the same time, even though we are in different time zones, and it's I mean the benefits that G Suite offers is really, I don't know, even though I haven't really discovered all their uses and advantages, but I think that there are a lot of things that we are still missing, and we need to learn.
Yeah, so it sounds like that was a positive experience for you. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely.
That's really good.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Basma, you also said B. Can you tell us a little bit about why you chose that? Okay, does anyone else want to share why they chose their choice? Nope. Okay, that's all right. Well, like Alejandra said, don't worry too much if you're not super confident in your skills with technology. You don't have to be a tech expert by any means to use this. It's not so much about the ability to use the technology as it is how you implement it. So that's really the important part we're trying to get at. So thank you everyone for your responses to the poll. So now I'd like to talk a little bit about some key points in Google Drive. So we'll talk about this, a few things that can make the use of digital interactive notebooks easier and more effective. Some of you may be already familiar with this stuff, but I just want to go over it to make sure everyone here is on the same page. So the first thing I want to talk about is using files and folders in Google Drive. If you've used something like Google Classroom, or even if you use this for your own document organization purposes, you probably already know about this. So just like you can share files that other people can contribute to, you can also share whole folders with people, where anyone with access to that folder can modify or view the files that are inside of it. If you share files just one at a time, the people that you've shared with will still have access to all of your stuff, but it tends to get a little bit messy, as anyone who's used Google Drive can probably tell you. So you have a section that has all the things that are shared with you there, and the more things that are shared with you, the more things are piled up in that section. So it can be hard to find certain things. So if you share a folder, then all they have to do is find that folder rather than finding each individual document. So say if you have like a course syllabus and then activities, documents to turn in, if those are all shared with your students, rather than them having to find each individual document, if you have a folder to put them in, that will make things a lot easier. Another thing is the shared drive feature. So I'm actually going to, this is probably easier if you actually see it. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second and actually show you what this looks like in Google Drive. So I'm going to share again. So this is what Google Drive looks like. So you can see here is the shared with me section. So you can see I have a lot of things that are shared with me. So if I want to find something that was shared with me like a couple months ago, it means I have to scroll all the way down here and locate the correct either file or folder. And this is where shared drives come in. So if we click on this tab here that's labeled shared drives, you see these drives are each a collection of like files and folders. So you can see there are files in here, there are folders in here, and they're all organized under this shared drives tab. So rather than having to sift through all of your everything that's ever been shared with you, because that's what this is a collection of everything people have ever shared with you. If you go here under shared drives, you can create a shared drive that can be like, you can have a shared drive for a course, or for a section of a course, or for a module or something like that. It's easy to find because they're all under this tab. So you can use files, you can use folders, but I think the shared drives thing is really super useful, especially as you have more people sharing things with you, or if you use Google Drive for a long time, you probably have a lot of files and folders that are shared with you already. So this is just a way to stay organized. Are there any questions about that before we move on? No? Okay. All right, so we'll get back to it then. So basically, bottom line here is that creating shared drives have the advantage of things not getting lost as easily. So if you have a shared drive for a course or for a section, it lets you make multiple files, folders, and other media available to you and your students in this centralized location. So you can have folders for lots of things in your shared drive. So places for like finding information about the course, folders for turning things in, folders for study guides, homework, etc. And this is all tied together by the share function, which lets you choose who can have access to any particular folder, file, or shared drive. So just as long as you're the one to create all these documents and you're the owner of them, you get to control who has access to them. Okay. Once again, any questions before we move on? I know that was probably a lot of information for people. No? Okay. Okay, so now I want to talk about some of the more technical features of the digital interactive notebook. So first is the interaction with content. So when they're working in the notebook, students get to interact directly with the content. So they can complete activities directly in the notebook, and the instructor can view students' progress and offer assistance or offer feedback as needed. As we said before, it can also serve as a record of participation. So there's no worries about forgetting to turn anything in or forgetting to upload things to Canvas, because it's all right here in the notebook. And this can be especially useful for content-based lessons. But if you wanted to use this for assessment purposes or implement a deadline, you can also restrict editing under the share menu. And as the owner of the document, you can control who gets to edit and when, so that the notebooks can't be edited after a certain date or time. And so this here is an example of what an activity might look like. So here we have like a sort of map task. So students would be working in the notebook either by themselves or with a partner. And this here can actually be like an embedded audio file. So if they click this, it will play a sound file. And so the instructions are to listen for directions to 3 buildings on campus. So they would pick which building it is and move it to the appropriate location after listening to these directions. Oops. Another feature is interaction with peers. So multiple students can work on one notebook together and edit at the same time. And it doesn't have to be just 1 or 2 students either. It can be potentially an entire class. So if you have a class notebook where people are working on different activities simultaneously, they can all be doing that. So they can also comment and leave feedback on others' notebooks or slides if you're doing, say, a peer review activity. And they can communicate via text chat in Google Slides. There's actually a text and comment feature, which you can see a screenshot of here. So if you click this little icon in Google Slides, which is up at the top right, you can see the chain of comments where people responded to comments, etc. So this can be used in combination with Zoom sessions or voice chat for any number of things. So this really allows students to collaborate in this shared space online in real time. So how this is all done is really, so there are some tools I want to talk about that kind of underlie all this. So the first is the theme builder. And the theme builder allows you to create reusable slide layouts that you can use to organize your notebook into different activities, different sections, etc. So within the theme builder, you can create designated objects that students can interact with. Essentially what the theme builder does is let you create templates that you can use to make basically a master copy of the notebook. So you can have a blank original copy that you can then duplicate and alter for various purposes. I know it probably sounds like a lot of work at first, but once you create one, all you really have to do is make a copy and then edit that copy for other classes, other assignments, other courses, etc. So students can work on different slides in the same notebook, or you can have them working in their own notebook. So essentially what the theme builder does is when you create a slide layout, it flattens anything on that layout that's in the into the background of the slide. So students can't change or delete whatever is made in the theme builder. And in addition to creating this layout in the background, you can insert placeholder text boxes that students can edit. So if you create a placeholder text box, so that's what this is down here, is a placeholder. And they won't see all this, all they'll see is a place to input text. So here on the cover, this is a placeholder where students can write their name. But they won't see all this white text. All it will say is like, they'll be able to click on it and add text. However, this title here, they would not be able to edit because this is part of the layout itself. So once you finish the layout, as you see in this example of a cover page, you can create a slide in edit mode with that specific layout. So that's what this is here, and then it's ready to go. I know this all sounds complicated, but it's much easier when you actually do it. We'll get to that very shortly. So you can also create links between slides or pages in the notebook. So you can use this to create mastery paths or just link to, for organization purposes, to various activities. So as you can see in this example, there are tabs in this notebook, so page 1, page 2, page 3. And each of these tabs can have hyperlinks attached to them that take you to different pages in the notebook. You can also have these links take you to outside sources like web links or links to basically wherever you want to go, you know, Canvas, news sites, other media in Google Drive, etc. So this allows for quick access and organizations of activities, lessons, organization of classwork, homework, and more. So if you create an activity with multiple parts, it can allow you to take students to specific slides that allow them to complete each part of the activity in the order that they should be done. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it over to Alejandra so she can show you how this is done. So I'm going to stop sharing now.
All right, thank you so much, Hannah. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're having, or good afternoon. I'm not sure what part of the world you're in, but it's morning for us, so hello. Let me start sharing my screen. Let's see. All right, and can everyone see my screen? Okay, great. All right, so like I said earlier, you definitely do not have to be a tech expert to do this. As long as you know how to create a basic slide in Google Slides, you'll be able to create one of these notebooks. So the first thing I'm going to do is just go to my Google Drive folder where my notebook will live. I will click New. I will go to Google Slides and select Blank Presentation. Okay, and so I always like to make sure I'm naming things properly. So I'm going to name this as soon as I can. So example, just very briefly. So if you click here, you'll see all of the pre-made layouts, and it's exactly these layouts that we'll be changing in order to make our notebook. So this will change, and you'll see in a second how. But first, you can choose to keep the orientation that's on here. However, we want to show you more of a notebook style. So I'm going to actually change that by going to File and then Page Setup. Okay, and now I'm going to go to Custom, and a standard notebook is 8.5 by 11 inches. So I'm just going to input that, and you'll see that it actually changes the size of our layouts or pages. Okay, there we go. And so now the real fun begins because we'll actually start creating our notebook. And so all you have to do to go to Theme Builder view is go View, Theme Builder. All right, so we're here. Okay, and so now that we're here, we're actually going to be working with these smaller layouts at the bottom. But very briefly, if you implement any changes to this main layout or main page called theme, all other changes will be made to all other layouts. So what I mean by that is, let's say I want to change the color to this main theme layout. Notice how all of the other layouts have changed as well. So be careful with making any changes to that unless you know that's part of your design and an activity process. But I'm going to go back. Okay, so the next thing we do now is we make copies of all of these. So I will just shift and select all of these. And you can either click Control or Command D on your computer, or simply right click Duplicate Layouts. And that makes copies of everything. So why do we want to make copies? Well, we want to make copies so you make sure that you always have these blank templates to work with. If you do not have these blank templates, that means you'll actually have to delete your carefully created notebook pages in order to make more. And so we don't want to do that. Very briefly, you'll see that any copy or any duplicate, you know it's a copy because of the title name. So for example, a copy will have the number 1 after it. Normal layouts do not have a 1 after it. So keep that in mind. And I would say be discerning with your naming convention, make sure they're descriptive, and always change the name of the layouts to make it easier for yourself. So now I'm going to show you how to create a main cover page. So here you'll see that I'm trying to type into this and I can't. And that's because these are placeholder text boxes. So I could type into these in the other edit mode. So this is edit mode. See, I can type into them, but if I go to theme builder, I cannot. So I want to have full control of my notebook. So I'm actually going to delete these. So select, okay. And so now the real fun begins because we can start creating this notebook. So the first thing I do is change background. So you can just click background here and you can choose the color of the page or whatever you want. You can also even choose an image as your background. You can upload your own images, you can take a picture, or you could even do a quick Google search. It's completely up to you and your activity. Okay, so now that's the color I want, and really all you have to make use of is the cool features that Google Slides already has. So I want to create a shape here for my main cover page, and you can customize it. You know, you can change the color, the border weight, the size, and all of that. For quick presentation purposes and also just general planning, if you want to standardize your fonts, so have the same font size throughout, you can actually create a document in advance with all of this information. So you can just Google and paste, so you can just copy and paste into your notebook. So that's what I'm going to do here. Or you can even just type directly into the shape. It really depends on your best workflow. Okay, so now I have that. Remember, students will not be able to interact or click or change any of this. But I do want my students to be able to put in their name so I know whose notebook this belongs to. So I will click name and notice that I went to this little T and selected text box so I could write in it. Now I want to have a box that my students can write in. So I'm going to actually go back to the T, but this time select body text placeholder. Okay, there we go. And so this is the box that my students will be able to type in. Everything else they won't be able to. So I'm going to change the font. Okay, and so that's our first main cover page. I will show you how to link tabs shortly. So now this is one of my activity pages. And again, I want to change the color. So I will quickly select another color. And again, you can either type directly into the Google Slides by selecting text box, or you can copy and paste from another document.
One note about having a document that has this planning stuff in it, it might not seem like it saves you a lot of time now, but once you've made like 20 of these rather than one of them, it does save you a lot of time to just copy and paste rather than typing everything out over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. So, oh, here we go. All right, and so now the easiest thing you can do is you can actually duplicate this again, and now you have 2 pages. So I'm just going to quickly change the background color so I know which page this is. Okay, and so here all you have to do is change the instructions, rename it. Okay, and so that's our main cover and 2 pages completed. And now I'm going to just click on the white space here. And we don't want that. Oh, okay, that's my timer. So we'll be finishing up shortly. So here, all I have to do to insert this is go to this little plus button, insert my page. Notice that the duplicates go all the way to the bottom. So you will have to make sure that you know where you're looking. So again, this page 2 was a duplicate or a copy of page 1. And so very quickly, in order to actually make these tabs or link things together, you can, for example, create a tab here. So make full use of the duplicate or copy option so you don't have to, keep fiddling around with this. So I'm going to make a copy. And now I have 2. And again, I can quickly change the color to this, make any cosmetic changes. But what I really want to show you is how to link. So all you have to do to link is right click, link, and then actually select which slide I want this tab to be linked to. So you can also click this. The slide number is actually presented off here to the side. So I know this tab will correspond to this page. So I will select slide 2. And I will go in and fill in the text. This tab will be linked to slide 3. So again, right click, link, slide 3. And now if I want, I can actually put the text here. So please be aware that linking objects, having these objects move, anything that you want to actually be movable, interactable, linkable, you have to do towards the very end. Because otherwise, if you added this in Theme Builder view, the students would not be able to actually click it. So that's my quick demo of how to create one of these. Any questions? Okay, I'm going to quickly stop sharing.
Okay, well, if there are no questions, then we can segue into our first activity. So we're gonna put you guys into breakout rooms and you can try to make your own one of these. So you can either work together on one or you can make your own, but we figure you can ask each other questions and sort of work together. And we'll be around to give assistance as needed. So I'm gonna, hold on a second here.
Yeah, so really the only limit here is your creativity. You can do so much with this. And I really think there is something to be said about being able to move things. And I'll show you an example of that in a bit.
Okay, so before we go to breakout rooms, here are the basic instructions. So we'll give you about 10 minutes to do this. So we want you to try to create your own basic notebook and add a main cover page and 3 pages in the notebook. So you can play around with changing background colors, adding background images and adding titles, duplicating layouts. And if you have questions about these things, we will be around to help. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, if there are no questions, then I will make those breakout rooms. So Okay, rooms are open. So we'll see you guys in about 10 minutes.
So I'm going to join room 1.
Okay. And I'll go to room 2 then.
Mhm. Zainam, I don't know if you can hear me, but if you have any questions whatsoever about how to create one of these, just let me know. I will be headed to the other breakout room, but I will be back shortly. Thank you.
Hi, Hannah and Alejandra, we're about 8 minutes, but again, take your time. Just wanted to give you a heads up.
Okay, thanks, Sandy.
Sure, my pleasure.
Hi, everyone. So I know that we have just a few more minutes left. And so I briefly just want to share with you an example, well, a few examples of what you can actually do with this. So now that you kind of have a basic idea of how to make one of these, can you see my screen? Yes. Okay. So this, for example, is, so I'd like to show you first. So if you go to slideshow, you'll see that you can actually click directly on these tabs and look at what happens. So let's select page 2, for example. Oh, it takes me to page 2. Let's say I want to go back to the home page. All I have to do is click the little house and it takes me to the home page, right? So maybe this is something that's better used for just having reading activities, for example. If you want to have your students write in this or move things, they have to be in this mode. This is called edit mode, right? So here I can put my name, but I have to be in this mode. So let me briefly just show you other examples. So here, for example, this takes me to slide 2. Okay, and so I can also link text. So if I click on that, that takes me to slide, that should say slide 3, sorry. See, made a mistake. So it's really easy to fix this. Just click edit link and then slide 3. And that's how you change a quick link. So now I'm going to click on slide 3. And this is the activity we showed you. So here, students, for example, can listen to this. They can actually move the objects, which I think there's something about this that I think just really helps and makes this more interactive. So I really like this feature. They can also be linked to other documents, right? So here I have the transcript for the audio. Let's move to example 2. So here, this is something perhaps that can be shared with 2 students. So I can click on student A, that will take me here, right? And so again, all of this was created in Theme Builder view by just using shapes and using text boxes and placeholders, right? So here I can type things in. I can type things in here and here. I can leave a comment, or I can reply to someone else. I can go back to this example page. Sometimes it's a little hard to select the tabs, so maybe I would make that bigger. But I can go back to this. I can go to student B. Again, I can make all of these changes. I can then have them work together, right? So here I want them to write and talk about this example together. I can leave little reminders for them straight in the slides, or again, I can create a text. Briefly want to show you example 3. And so this, for example, this can be something for me, like, did my student finish this? Yes. And that's how I know, right? So really quick for grading. So this is for a film guide, for example. You can be really creative. Again, this is just linking and using the different images. So here, this is just like one image used for half of the page, and the background is just the normal background color. And these are just shapes, right? And I can insert a YouTube video, for example. Just go to insert video, find my YouTube video. I can have students play this, right? And then move on to the next page and actually write things that they noticed, right? I can move on to the next page, more questions, or I can have students work together. And remember, I can always go back to the home page if I need to, or go to the example page. Now, sorry, I do see it's 11 over here, so if you'll give me just one more minute of your time, if that's okay, I want to show you something that's a little even more interactive.
Alejandra, you're fine with time, so don't worry about it.
Okay, thank you so much. So
Sure.
This is an example of a task-based lesson. And this really uses a lot of the concepts we talked about. And again, don't get caught up, so much in aesthetics. Like, yeah, it's really cool if these look, pretty or nice, but the point is for them to be useful to you, right? So if it takes too much time to come up with all of this, don't use it. Just use the basic, things we talked about. So this, for example, is how to order tacos in Spanish, because tacos are delicious. So, you can make this more learner-centered, asking questions, all of this. But what I really want to show you is the interactable objects. So let's say you have students who maybe are just starting their acquisition journey, don't really speak too much of the language. Use images, right? So maybe they do know a word here. So maybe I can drag things there. I can have partners working on this. You know, I can do a lot with this interactable feature. So this is just, you know, one example of what you could do. It's really up to you and your creativity, right? So again, I'm explaining a lot of this via images, right? But you can certainly adapt this for more advanced students. So it's really up to you.
And all this is made of like very basic building blocks of stuff in
Yes.
Google Slides. Like I know some of ours like look very fancy, but really all it is like inserting images and making text boxes and making shapes and making the shapes different colors, different sizes, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
it doesn't take a whole lot to make it to make something that's very useful.
Yeah, and so one secret I'll tell you is these little icons, I like to use icons from PowerPoint because I think they look really nice. So I just copy and paste and bring them over. So yeah, everything we showed you earlier can help you create something like this. So
can I ask one question?
yes.
I'm curious. So do you also use Pear Deck? Is that integrated in this?
No, I have not used that before.
Okay, because I know with Google Slides, Pear Deck lets it become interactive too. I was just wondering if that was, maybe it's the same technology. Just curious.
Oh, I have not used that, but thank you for,
Oh.
that's something really useful. I'm always trying to learn more new tech things. So
Well, yeah, if you do Pear Deck, it kind of works like Nearpod, but if it, you know, it's again part of that Google Suite, so it interfaces much easier, I think. I don't know, Hannah, have you had experience with that? I have really not used it because my friend used it and she tried it on Zoom in a presentation, and of course, it didn't function quite the way she wanted it to, but you can poll real time in there too. So,
sorry.
you know, I don't know. Hassan, you're shaking your head, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, we do have sorry, I had to exit out of the screen, but we do have a template available. So I'm going to share that with you, Hassan and PC. So you have a very basic template that you can then use to create your own, you know, more elaborate.
Great, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you all.
So let me
Thank you all for coming.
Yes, and thank you from TESOL. If you look in the chat also, there's some links there that you can follow the Call IS and you'll be able to get recordings of all of the workshop sessions.
Great, that's wonderful.
So, yes, so thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day. And I sent the link.
Okay, thank you.
Nice, thank you, Alejandra. Anna.
Yep, take care.
Bye.
Bye.
You.
Okay, I'm going to end the meeting if that's okay with you. Okay, thank you so much for your presentation.
All right, thank you.
It was really beneficial. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.